Well, welcome to this interview. I am your host today, Jennifer Storm, and I have the privilege of chatting with Deidra Saina, who is the Air Force Domestic Violence Victim Advocacy Program Coordinator, and is with us today to discuss risk assessments and safety planning for military-connected survivors. Thank you so much for being here with us today and your willingness to share your experience.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Like you said, I work for the Air Force Family Advocacy Program. Our goal, our mission is to keep families healthy, safe, and resilient. We provide prevention, intervention, and research supportive services to our families across the Air Force. My job as the Domestic Abuse Victim Advocate Program Coordinator is to oversee an amazing team of victim advocates all over the world, stationed at different Air Force bases. So I get to train them, provide consultation, advice, and together we provide 24/7 response to all military affiliated victims of domestic abuse, risk assessing, helping clients develop safety plans, connecting them to resources, and ensuring that they know what their rights and options are. And so our civilian partners and agencies are so important for us and our ability to do that. So thank you for having me here
Wonderful.
today.
Thank you. Okay, so let's jump right in. We know that each survivor is unique, right? We also know that military-connected survivors often encounter unique challenges specific to the military. Can you please share a little bit with us what those unique factors are when it comes to intimate partner violence?
Absolutely. And you're right. We definitely know that there are, in general, risk factors, right, that contribute, not necessarily cause individuals to be abusive in their relationships, but definitely contribute, increase the likelihood that maybe domestic violence could occur. And we know what those are, right? As victim advocates, as victim service professionals, the alcohol and drug use, the financial hardships, all of those factors that we, kind of raises a red flag for us. In the military, we have some unique ones. And thank you for asking me about what those are. When it compared to our civilian counterparts in the military, we definitely have certain dynamics, factors like multiple rapid deployments, where we're geographically relocated. I am a former military spouse of 23 years and definitely have had my share of relocating all over the place with my active duty spouse. That's a little difficult at times, right? When you go from small town Kansas to Hawaii, everyone wants to go to Hawaii. We love Hawaii. But guess what? Hawaii doesn't have my mother, my sister, my support systems. For our military families, that is very difficult when relationship conflict, family conflict arises. Where do they turn to? They're brand new to a new location. And when things happen, which they do in families, relationships, and stress factors, it's very difficult for our families, our military affiliated families, to get some support when their support systems are all the way across the country or in another country. Also, we definitely have, staying on that, to continue speaking on that risk factor, a lot of our spouses who relocate also have a hard time getting jobs, feeling empowered. Relocating all over the place, we have to end a job, start a new one, end it again. Those are also stress factors as well. We know that our families are dependent on the active duty member, which a lot of times can be very difficult for families to come forward with abuse because they do not want their active duty member to get in trouble. Because guess what? They actually love their partner. And they also don't want that to impact their livelihood and their benefits and their financial stability. So those are some very unique factors that sometimes are not there in the civilian sector. I work the victim advocacy shelters and different agencies in the civilian sector. No one the battered women's shelter isn't going to pick up the phone and call the batterer's job, right? They're not going to call until that person's job, they're abusing their family. So in the military, though, that can absolutely happen, which is a barrier at times for our clients to seek help.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And these are factors that you don't typically always think about and that are unique. So thank you so much for sharing those. On the flip side of that, are there factors unique to the military that actually could lower the risk of intimate partner violence? And if so, what are those?
And thank you for actually asking that as well, because that's sometimes what we forget. Sometimes the factors that we think actually exasperate risk and increase safety concerns are some of the same factors that actually reduce risk and protect us. They're protective factors for us. And those are things like you do have a supervisor that someone's going to pick up the phone and call, right? Our command teams across the military, they're one of our most important members of the coordinated community response. They are the ones that we call on at 3 o'clock in the morning, our first sergeants, right? When we're called by law enforcement and they say, hey, Deidra, we got someone out here right now we just responded to a domestic abuse. The first sergeants and the command team, they're the ones we call and say, we need help. We got a member, we got one of your members, let's come together. And they're the ones who can, we don't call it order, we call it highly encourage our members to seek help. We call it, very much encouraging them the help seeking process for our members and our family members. So that's very much a protective factor for our families. Also, compared to the civilian sector, we have our military families do have stable jobs. They're pretty much locked into their jobs, whereas those of us in the civilian sector, sometimes that's up in the air, which definitely can cause stressors. We don't have that. These military members have stable jobs, stable pay, they have benefits, they have, medical, very, very good medical at times. That's very much a protective factor, right? And the most important thing is, and I would always say this, military members and family members never have to worry about finding out if they could get resources, right? There's so many resources, it's like actually overwhelming for them. They should never have to go without in the military. There are resources for financial readiness, resources for employment readiness, resources for when you're deployed, resources for childcare and, help with taxes and, the financial readiness, which we know is a very huge risk factor for domestic violence. The services that military members and families get cost thousands of dollars in the civilian sector. Mm-hmm. So there is counseling, mental health resources. There's so much there. Exceptional family member program. We know that is a risk factor for our child maltreatment cases, as well as domestic abuse when you have dependents who have a disability. We have so many services that can wrap around our military members free of charge, mm-hmm. just because they are there to serve us and our country. We have to serve them. That is one of the best protective factors. New parent support. Anyone who has a child 0 to 3, a new parent, we have nurses, social workers that actually can go in the home and help parents with breastfeeding and help mom and dad, or parents, parent together, co-parent. So there's so many resources, and that is definitely a protective factor. It's about us being able to, in the military, being able to ensure that our families are aware of those services And again, one of our biggest supporters are our civilian agencies, where they're able to help us get those families connected.
That's wonderful. And you don't realize the breadth of resources and how vital and important that is. So you kind of touched on this, and some of those resources I would assume will speak very much to the safety planning that's needed. But what would you share about safety planning for civilian advocates who really want to support military connected survivors? What resources and tips would you give them?
Thank you. So that's a very good question, and I train on this a lot. So our safety plan for all of our victim advocates in the military, literally the most important tool for us to keep our families safe. Our clients that come in and seek services, that safety plan is super important. And it's about empowering our clients to, we know that you've been safe already, right? Like you are the expert here. Let's pull that out. And then, are you okay with me providing you with some additional tips and support? And I would always suggest for our civilian partners to keep doing what you're doing, right? Like a lot of times us in the military, especially leadership and other victim advocates, and a lot of our victim advocates come from the civilian sector, we rely on you all to help us with the most important safety planning tips and whatnot, to help us keep our families safe. I would always go back to the unique dynamics, though, that the military has, you know, the ones that we were just discussing, to help with those safety plans. So we always know that addressing immediate needs, super important when helping a client develop a safety plan. I always say we don't develop safety plans, the client does. And they're the one, we are here to support them. And so any immediate needs that we see, if you see, or if you are aware of immediate needs such as financial, you know, issues, stalking, those issues related to deployments or relocation, tap into the military as far as command structure, the family advocacy program. Get to your nearest or contact your nearest family advocacy program and just say, I got a hypothetical to pitch to you. You know, if I have a client here in my agency that needs assistance with, they're here or they're somewhere at a military base and they need to be, they want to go back home. They're just tired. They want to go back home. There's a lot of stress. What can I do to help them? Well, guess what? That's the best thing for you all to do, is to contact the military, because we've got a ton of resources and information to provide agencies. And you don't have to call and tell us anything about the client, okay? You don't have to say this is their name. And I know that a lot of agencies can't do that. Mm-hmm. But what we would like is for you to call us and say, hypothetically, can you help me understand a little bit more about the military and what information and resources I can provide to this client? That's a safety plan right there. That's a very important piece of the safety plan. Help me understand the rank structure or the command teams out there at that base. Do you think that I should call command team? Do you might have information on like a general number? You know, that's part of the safety plan. And that's what, when it comes to the military, I would absolutely suggest reaching out and doing hypotheticals and asking those questions. But in general, you all are our experts in safety planning. So keep doing what you do and add the extra layer of military support and information by just calling and asking and connecting with your base.
So you mentioned some really great safety planning tools, and one of the ones I think is the most important for civilian partners is connecting with the military, right? Talk a little bit about what are those traditional tools that are used in the civilian world that actually could exacerbate the intimate partner violence if they don't make that connection with you?
Okay, all right. I'm glad that you asked that, because there are certain things that could actually exacerbate. And I don't know if it is, there are factors that can exacerbate just specifically for the military, but definitely if you are engaging with a military affiliated family, when you are talking to them about their, just like what we just mentioned, the fact that they might have to be removed from the home. A lot of our families, they don't have anything else. This is they're removed completely from their support systems. On base or off base, they're with their military member. And so when we ask them to, let's go into a shelter, let's figure out how to get your member, you guys to kind of cool off, and those are really important safety planning techniques that we use and coordinate with our command teams. However, when we are encouraging too much of their separation, that can add to additional stress for our families because they have no one else. And so the safety planning and the trying to help our clients develop plans, for what's going to happen, what's going to occur. Those should include some really good support systems, natural support systems, agency support systems that our clients are very much okay with, because you are not dealing with individuals who have lived in a community forever. Their families are all over the place. They have support system. You're dealing with individuals who literally have just gotten there, or they are scared to even come forward about anything because what's going to happen to them, what's going to happen to their member. They're literally in a place where I always use Hawaii as my example, which always kind of backfires on me sometimes, but I always say, as beautiful as Hawaii is, it's an island. I was there all by myself with 2 babies under the age of 2. Mm-hmm. If something happened to me and then my husband deployed and then came back and then deployed again, I had no family. If something happened, that is really difficult to, an advocate to come in and say, here's my suggestion, safety plan. Let's get you out. Let's get you. Where are you going to go? Mm-hmm. And how is that going to fit? Who are you going to rely on? So really helping our clients develop good natural support systems is important. And so the traditional safety plans that we use, that's one piece that can backfire because it's very different than the civilian sector. I also talk about the informing. And I'm not sure, a lot of our safety plans for the military, we have a very general safety plan that's been used for years. It's a dinosaur safety plan, and we're actually updating it. Department of Defense is updating it. But one of the areas is about work, right? And like making sure that employers and friends and neighbors are aware of what's going on with your situation so that you can have some support in that. In the military, that could also backfire, right? Because guess what? Our neighbors, that's our first sergeant right there next door. Or that's the other, military member who's in our unit next door. And so they're aware of all of this stuff. It's going to get to everyone else. And those are barriers again. And that's the whole reason why a lot of our folks do not want to come forward, because I call it everyone's in your business in the military. And so those are areas to safety plan. The traditional safety plans really look at how the informing, support systems could impact negatively our military families, and discuss what, some alternate options are. What are some options what have you done so far? Who do you trust? Because the trust of individuals in the military, as far as people, looks a little different at times than our civilian sector. They might not trust a lot of folks.
Yeah. So Deidra, if you had to list like the top kind of 3 or 4 really good safety planning tips, what would they look like?
So the top safety planning tips for what I would, talk to clients about, first of all, would be the most lethal kind of risk factors that we've identified. As victim advocates, we're crisis responders. So if you have identified to me that you have been strangled or choked, if you have told me that you have been abused in the past, if you told me that you have, there's weapons in the home, those are areas that I want to safety plan with you around right now, okay? If you told me you were strangled, my safety plan looks very different than if you did not tell me that. My safety plan is going to be, I need you to understand, first of all, that I'm very concerned about you. Are you willing to meet me at the hospital? Because I'd like for you to get checked by a medical provider. If you're not willing to do that, I want a safety plan with you about what might come up here in the next few days, because you can die up to how many days later, 20-something days later. And I need you to understand that. If you tell me that you've got weapons in the home and you've been drinking, or your partner's been drinking, I want a safety plan around that. Those kind of safety plans are the most important for me. Right here at 3 o'clock in the morning, I want to make sure that we talk about those things, because I need you to understand that I need you to get through the next few days here so we can get you in and get you some help and get you connected.
So elaborate a little bit more on risk factors that are unique to the military. You had touched on some mental health issues that could also exacerbate intimate partner violence.
Yeah, and I wanted to also make sure one of the unique risk factors that we have, or what I would call, the unique dynamics in the military that do not cause, right, domestic violence, but certainly increase the likelihood that domestic violence could occur. I wanted to also mention the mental health issues related to military members and families. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not new, right, to our world, and especially nowadays. In the military, however, we do have members that have PTSD that has occurred over and over again, trauma that has occurred over again. We also have traumatic brain injury, which co-occurs with PTSD, and sometimes is misdiagnosed or diagnosed at the same time, because it definitely and enhancing is probably not the right word, but it does. One enhances the other. So we have our military members who certainly have been traumatized through military service, with all that we have been through in the last several years. And so that trauma can certainly exacerbate domestic violence in relationships. It can cause more aggression. It can cause issues related to not being able to focus or make good decisions, and again, it doesn't cause people to abuse their children. However, it does exacerbate if we don't have good tools and good, I always say, we got to have a toolbox and fill it with all kinds of tools for our families who are dealing with these kinds of issues. It's not, and mental health issues are not unique just in the military, but it's like a huge bubble pocket of mental health issues that are focused on the military, right? If that makes sense. We have gone through a lot of trauma the past several years, where our members, a lot of them at the same time, are experiencing trauma, versus the rest of us in the world might have experienced trauma, throughout our lifetime. And we have several studies, the ACE study being one of them, adverse childhood experience study, that indicates military members actually have a higher rate of childhood trauma before they even come into the military. So those are things that we definitely look at, and could be super unique for us in the military. Thank you for letting me add that in there.
No, thank you. It's incredibly helpful. Is there anything that you've learned during your time working with military connected families that you think every advocate should know, that wouldn't necessarily know without like that internal lens that you have had for so long?
Well, this is a joke in the Air Force. It's not a joke, it's actually a real thing, but what we always say is keep calm and let the victim advocate handle it.
I love that.
I would absolutely. And so with that being said, my suggestion, I have been working for the military, Army first and now Air Force, for, 17 years now. I can't believe it's been that long, all with family advocacy. And my suggestion, and prior to that, I actually worked for the civilian sector as a victim advocate. My mother was a manager for our local battered women's shelter, so I've literally been a victim advocate probably since the day I was born. But I understand the civilian sector and the military sector, and what I can say is trust each other. Let's collaborate. Let's partner. Be patient with the military. We are very much in a bubble at times. We have a mission, a very important mission at that. Several of our military, all of our military branches of service have a very important mission. Please be patient with them in that. There's certain things that they might not know or might not be open to sharing or might not be trustworthy. And then on the military side, I always tell them, trust your folks in the civilian community. They're the ones who can help you the best, because a lot of our families, they don't want anything to do with us. That's just the fact of the matter. When I say they don't want anything to do with us, meaning the military, when stuff happens, they do not want the military involved because of all of the reasons we just discussed early on. And so we have to connect with our civilian community agencies so that we can protect these families and give them the right to their self-determination and give them the right to choose what support services they would like to partake in. And so that is my biggest suggestion, is to that CCR, Coordinated Community Response protocol or team. That's literally the most important thing we have right now. And it really takes our agencies in the civilian sector to partner with us, and same thing on the military side, to partner with them. But my suggestion for you all in the civilian sector is to be patient with us, please, and to educate us and to help keep us abreast on all of the latest and greatest of victim advocacy and domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse support services that we might not know about because we're in our little bubble sometimes.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you so much for giving of your time today and sharing so much of your resources and the wealth of knowledge that you have. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate you as well, and I appreciate all of you out there. And again, we're here. Let's work together, and I just appreciate you giving me this platform.